if you can get up on them particularly early, are you playing a team that's feeling heat? I mean, Jerry Jones, they won whatever it was, 5 games last year, 6 games last year. Do they have pressure on them to advance? And does that come into the psyche of Mike McCarthy's team at all?
I think the Packers and Tampa, the pressure on them just to try to win the Super Bowl is big. Same with Kansas City. The pressure to me to win a playoff game, a home playoff game, is equally as big on Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys. Like, I don't think that pressure on them to win the Super Bowl. I mean, the Cowboys haven't been past the second round since the mid-'90s. They have not been to the NFC Championship since 1996, whatever their third Super Bowl was. Maybe it was 95. I always get that 95, 96 season. But you know what I mean. They won 92, 93, Niners won 94, 95.
Yeah.
But Mike McCarthy cannot lose the playoff game at home when he just won 12-5. I don't give a shit. If it's like, well, we got the Niners. It's a rough matchup.
To a team that just got in.
Got in because of a fucking overtime interception. Right? And it sucks if you're them because you were looking at playing the Eagles or the Saints, and then all of a sudden you got the Niners. Like, if you could have asked them what teams would you like to play, Eagles, Saints, Niners, if they had to rank the teams they would like, the teams they would not like, the Niners would have been third.
Eagles won? Saints defense, or would you rather just play the Saints offense?
I mean, they beat the Cowboys beat the Saints, I think, 4 or 5 weeks ago, so you'd probably just go Eagles 1 because you know them really well, and you kick their ass. And then the Saints, and then the Niners clear 3.
Yeah. Not knowing entirely, I'd be really interested to know really the dynamic, not the working relationship with Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore.
I've read from people that it's really good. I mean,
okay. So I'll assume that it is, and the point I'm making can exist even if they have the best relationship you could possibly have. But when you work for Jerry Jones, I think you're very aware that you can get replaced. Now, Jerry has actually had quite a bit of stability at head coach. It's not like Jerry goes all willy-nilly with his head coaches, so maybe Mike feels comfortable. But I think he's got to be very aware that Jerry is desperately trying to not just win a championship, just advance a few rounds in the playoffs. What is he, almost 90? And, I do think there comes a time when you have to make, because Jerry did it once before with Jason Garrett, you have to kind of evaluate who is the best coach on my staff right now. And if he thinks he's going to lose Kellen Moore to somebody else's head coach offering, does that put Mike McCarthy's job at jeopardy if Mike is not fully delivering what Jerry Jones thinks he should be fully delivering? I'll just put myself in Jerry's shoes. I would be thinking about it. I would be thinking to myself, is my offensive coordinator the better choice for the next 5 years than my head coach? And I wouldn't make that decision if my head coach is taking me to the NFC Championship game. But I would make that decision if I feel like my head coach is not delivering. Say what you want. I mean, I know Dak got hurt last year, so maybe it's a wash. Maybe it's a free year for Mike McCarthy. But it was not a successful year. I mean, there's no way you would call it that. So that would be on my mind if I were Jerry Jones. I don't know if it's on Mike's mind. I don't know if Mike feels good about it.
It happened once upon a time, and I'm not saying Kellen Moore is going to be Sean Payton.
It did.
But remember, Sean Payton was Parcells' offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, and people were like, he was a star. I remember hearing about the guy as like high school. He was a highly thought of guy, and then he went to the Saints, and it was, I think they talked about that in Cowboy land for a long period of time because Parcells was old, right? That was part of it. It was like, Bill is not young. This guy is going to retire soon, and you have the star. You should have just made, even if he just got a fire bill, do whatever. If he could have that to do over, he would have.
Yeah,
you would
think.
That's a good
point. That's a good point. I mean, Jason Garrett took over for Wade Phillips, right? It's gone both ways for him.
Yeah.
So I think that's pressure. Now, is it more pressure than what Cliff Kingsbury feels with his job on the line? Maybe Cliff individually feels more pressure than Mike McCarthy, but you can't convince me the Arizona Cardinals, who used to never go to the playoffs and are now in the playoffs, have more pressure on them than the Dallas Cowboys do.
Yeah. I mean, they had high picks for like 3 straight years. The Cardinals.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. The Bucs have pressure. The Chiefs have pressure. The Packers have pressure. But it's different than what the Cowboys have.
Yeah.
And I think every team that's playing in the playoffs probably feels some pressure. You know what I mean? Like the Eagles probably. Like it's the playoffs. Like Nick, sure. When are you going to get here again? You never know. Nothing's guaranteed. Be where your feet are. But I think Dallas has the most. Like, look at it, the reverse of it. What would be the biggest story? Which team winning the Super Bowl would be the biggest story of all the teams in the playoffs right now?
Rich Biscaccia.
Rich Biscaccia. That would feel like, you're right, that would feel like a major breakthrough. Like, I can't believe that team just won. It's funny, right? Georgia won the national title, and it's like, oh, it was like Georgia, Alabama in the title game. And people are like, oh, here we go, same old story. And Georgia's like, same old story. We haven't won a championship since 1982. What do you mean, same old story?
Yeah.
We haven't won a championship since 1982. So, I think it would feel like a major, major breakthrough for the Raiders. Obviously, the Bengals would be a big deal. But I think we as a football watching nation have been watching the Cowboys for 2 decades now. More, 2.5. Fail to get back to what, people they act like is kind of their birthright. Because they were established as that, like the dominant team in the league. And Jerry's been desperately trying to get back there. So
I think a lot of people have anger is probably the wrong word, but just negative feelings toward the Cowboys because they're talked about ad nauseum. Every channel you turn on about sports, when it comes to football, they're just a go-to. They get the Lakers, they get the Yankee treatment, and the difference is, like, the Lakers have won a lot over the last couple decades. Even the Yankees, I know that they're mad they haven't won a World Series since 2009, but it does feel, guy, like they're on fucking the playoffs all the time, right? The Yankees playing big games. I mean, the Cowboys have not really been that relevant given the hype that they get talked about over the last 20 years. Like the Steelers, the Packers, I mean, these teams win all the time.
Yeah.
Right? The Patriots, now the Chiefs with Andy, when Andy was in Philly. Like the Cowboys, like you could argue making the playoffs for them is just a big deal. Like you accomplish something. That's really, they are not the Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer Cowboys, where it's just like they're going to be favored in every round trying to win the Super Bowl. I mean, they went 12-5. They have a home game, and they're favored by 3 points. In a weekend where a lot of teams, I mean, the good teams, the Chiefs, favored by 12.5. The Bucks favored, that game could be like 9.5 by kickoff, right? Like that's the good.
Right, and to go back to the point, they're the number one scoring offense in the league.
Even the Rams, a lot of issues, and the Cardinals, who at one point in time looked like they were going to win like 13 games, they're favored by more points than the Cowboys are against the Niners. That, like you said, it took them a miraculous last 10 minutes of a game to just get into the playoffs. But yet, when you think about it, you're like, yeah, the Niners could easily win this game.
You're right. I mean, it's the Niners feel a little bit like the team that wins and then plays the 1 seed coming off a bye the next week, where you go, well, the 1 seed's got home field, but that other team, maybe they got a little something. They already warmed up. They played a game. The Niners have been playing that. Just they to me are tuned up right now for the postseason. Doesn't mean they're the better team necessarily. It just means they are tuned. They just played in a playoff game on Sunday.
Yeah.
They just dealt with the pain of losing that Tennessee game, and lucky for them, that didn't turn out to be a playoff game. They got another shot. They've been playing in those games with that pressure, and I think there's something to be said for that, for playing in that pressure, and feeling that same type of pressure when you walk out on the field that the other team maybe hasn't felt yet this year. Has Dallas felt that level of pressure at any point this year? I'd say no.
Yeah, and when is this group with Amari? I see he's only been there his second year. Dak. Micah Parsons, like these guys haven't been in this environment. This is a first for them. McCarthy being the head coach of this team. Like the Niners, a lot of their core guys were just involved in a Super Bowl run a year and a half ago or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, it'll be very, very interesting if the game starts against the Cowboys. The Niners have shown they can get down and come back. But when you get up, like they can also feel it. Do the Cowboys have the mettle and the moxie to come back?
Yeah,
I think Dak does as a guy, but sometimes I watch him. My issue with Dak is, like you said, he's one of the easier players in the league to root for. You just like, fuck, I'd want to hang out with the guy. But his football physical attribute as a player are just like, his arm's okay. He just has some passes that you're like, what the hell was that? He has some Jimmy Garoppolo level throws. He really does. And Zeke's a shell of himself. I I mean, to me, even the corner who has 11 interceptions, and that you have 11 interceptions on the season, you don't luck into that. But goddamn, he gets smoked. And I saw PFF weeks ago did something during the Arizona game, but the Niners were maybe playing the Texans. I wasn't really focusing on that game, and their whole thing was like, this guy is beside the 11 interceptions, he's having a historically poor season covering people. And then you watch that game against the Cardinals. AJ Green looked like it was 2000.
How's he so
14.
Well, did AJ Green get really fast again? He's running by him.
AJ Green's had a good season. AJ Green
Yes.
was a good sneaky signing, but he smoked Diggs that game. Like their DBs,
More than once.
I don't think their DBs look that good.
No, you could get open down the field on them. The question is, could the Niners hit that pass?
Yeah, and they don't usually. Kyler's much more likely to throw deep. Kyler does throw deep on the run,
And Kyler extends plays against them.
yeah.
Like the Cardinals are a problem for them, as we talked about on our live.
One thing in that game, and it was really the only game they've lost, over the last month, is their defensive linemen get back there and they're moving, but Kyler was just Allen Iverson crossovers and some spin moves and just got away. That'll be something like Jimmy ain't doing that.
No, but Jimmy does get rid of the ball. Like that's the key.
Yeah, we just gotta hope it's not to a guy wearing white,
Or when they will get to him, that he holds on to it, right?
and not allow it to be put out where they can hit it and fumble.
Someone like taps it and like pokes out of his hand. That'll be a coaching point, John. So Trayvon Diggs, 11 picks. Most in the NFL. This surprised me when I looked it up the other day. It's the most interceptions in the NFL since 1981. 11 interceptions. It's not a record, but it's the most in the league since 1981.
It's an incredible accomplishment.
I think the record's like 14. I think it was Everson Walls.
How's that
was
even
a
possible?
Cowboy. Night Train Lane, John. 14 interceptions for the Rams in 1952. Lester Hayes. The list of interception all-time names. Lester Hayes and Dan Sandifer. Hayes in 80 for the Raiders. Sandifer in 48 for Washington.
Wasn't Lester Hayes the guy that wore the stickum for the Raiders?
Yes. With like just the big like tape just covered in yellow stickum.
Stick him all over his fucking arms and hands.
Spec Sanders in 1950, Jack Christensen in 53, Don Dole, Fred Glick in 63, Paul Krause in 64, Woodley Lewis and Bob Nussbaumer in 50 and 49.
Do you think a lot of guys in the 50s and 60s were throwing pickable balls?
I mean, they were just throwing basketball passes, you know? They probably caught the ball like this. Emmett Thomas in 74, Sammy Baugh in 1943 at 11 picks. Mel Blount in 75, and Trayvon Diggs in 21.
Well, to me, their best player on defense, and I think is it even a question? He's going to be the defensive rookie of the year.
No, it's not a question.
He didn't just have like one of the better. He had one of the better seasons for just a young player in the league, let alone a rookie. I think we've seen in a long time. Like, holy shit! Remember when Aaron Donald got drafted, and everyone's like, "God damn, had this guy fell to 14?" I think J.J. Watt was kind of like that. If this guy had gone 2 or 3, it might not have been as crazy. Like Nick Bosa was just really good. People were like, yeah, that's why you draft him too. Once you fall out of the top 10, you're like, oh my God, Jerry Jones nailed this one. And he did. But I do think it factors in that he didn't play last year. And that I think we're going to look back. He didn't just randomly go 12. He sat the season out. I have a hard time thinking if that guy played last year that he makes it out of the top 10. I just do. Like, for example, the Miami Dolphins, if they could do it over, would they rather have Micah Parsons or Jalen Waddle? And I know Waddle caught 100 balls or whatever, but, like, you take Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Would the Atlanta Falcons rather have Kyle Pitts, who's awesome, 1,000-yard season as a tight end, or Micah Parsons? The guy's a pass rusher who's unstoppable.
Well, look at it this way. If the Dolphins had drafted, for whatever reason, it doesn't work this way, but if they had drafted Micah Parsons ahead of Justin Herbert, we would not be clowning them at every time Justin Herbert has a 300-yard game. You'd go, well, you should have gone with the quarterback, but I know it was a different draft. But you got a guy that might, like Micah Parsons, might be the defensive player of the year in the league one day soon.
Yeah, maybe next year.
He's that good, right? One other note on pressure for the Cowboys. Their kicker has missed playoff kicks, has missed 6 extra points this year, which is the most missed extra points in the league. And according to Bones Fossil. I was want to say Bones Jones. Bones Fossil, just some mental stuff. We got it figured out. Just some mental stuff. That's a little scary. So
Niners can fuck up on special teams too. So
yeah, no, it's a
they
two-way
miss
street, John.
If they miss a kick, the Niners will be like, "Hey, we'll raise you a fumbled muff punt."
Hopefully, you give one. If you give one, they give one for the sake of the bet.